Good morning, YouTube. This is Cornwallis with a small strategy video, this time centered around the ANZAC player, a small player with only 10 IPCs of starting income. But its role in the game is debatable, but according to me, I think they can make or break the game if they are well played, and especially if they can multiply their efforts with, for example, the United States. So, as Young Grasshopper explains in his video, so the key areas for them are, first of all, defend Sydney. Of course, you can't lose your capital, or else you are more of a liability for the American player. And there's a lot of money to be gained from the money islands, and your bonuses being the Dutch islands, and keeping Malaya together with all of your territories. So what he advocates is, first of all, to defend your homeland, which of course makes sense and is a logical play. But one of the comments I read was, yes, but if you only buy infantry, if only buy ground units, you give the Japanese player more freedom to play, which of course is also true. But nonetheless, you as an ANZAC player, you come at the very end of the game sequence. So what you will do will, according to me, will depend entirely of what Japan does. If Japan does a J1 declaration of war, according to me, your opening moves and your actions must be different. Let's say, for example, Japan does a J1 attack and they take out the Philippines and other areas, Kwangtung and maybe Borneo, then according to me, it doesn't serve any purpose taking up your transport and dropping one or two guys in Java. Yes, you will gain 4 IPCs, but you will lose your transport, which is 7, and maybe your infantry as well, which is 3. So you will gain 4 for a loss of 10. Another option is that you go for Dutch New Guinea, which gives you a bonus of 5. But then again, I think the good captain said that, yes, you will lose your transport and maybe a dude, which is, of course, a cost of 10, for only 5, which means you need at least 2 turns of keeping Dutch New Guinea for recuperating your money and to start getting profit from it. So is it a good move or not? So there is not only one good strategy for the ANZAC player. If not, the game would be very easy. But there are certain options. For example, if the Japanese player does do a J1 attack, okay, you could sacrifice your transport. Or you could, for example, which is something I tried several times, you can pick up your transport, pick up the dude from New Zealand, which is 1, 2, and then go all the way to the other side of the board, 3. Go to C-Zone 66. On a turn 2, you can then liberate or occupy, it depends on your who you're playing. Take up Brazil on turn 2, and from turn 3 on you can start dropping dudes in Morocco. Granted, you're not helping the American player directly in the Pacific, but I think the advantage here is that you have an allied player playing between the Italians and the Germans. Okay, you have the French player, but to be honestly, he cannot do a lot of things. Maybe dropping a minor factory here, you can start producing subs, and you can start harassing the Italians and the Germans, which of course can be useful in an allied kill Japan first strategy, where the American player is fully focused on Japan, and the Brits and the ANZACs then can delay or slowly harass the Axis players in Europe. That is maybe one idea. Advantage is you keep your transport alive. The disadvantage is, of course, you don't have your bonus from Dutch New Guinea, and you're not helping the American player directly in the Pacific. So every move has its pros and its cons, of course. Let's say that the Japanese player does not do a J1, then I would buy a submarine, for example. So these are other options. A submarine of cost 6, you have 4 left in your pocket. A transport and a dude, so you use up all your 10, or ground units. You can buy 3 infantry, saving 1, or 2 infantry and a mechanized, to give some mobility to defend your homeland, or 2 infantry and a cannon. That's all up to you. Let's say, it's one of my ideas, you buy a sub and you save 4. Then in a non-combat move, you pick up your transport, you pick up 2 dudes, and you go to Java. I advocate 2 dudes. Why? 1 dude, it's, yeah. If you send 2 dudes, a Japanese player must or is advocated to send more than 1 ground unit to take Java. So taking Java, that will grant you 4 IPCs for a total of 18 at the end of your turn. What can you do here? You can, for example, send in your fighter to Malaya, or starting to gather up your troops together with the British player in Shan State. To, in a later phase, turn 2, withdraw and then to Egypt. Okay, or you can reinforce Malaya, that's all up to you. Let's do this move for now. Up here, you withdraw your fighters and drop 1 dude in Northern Territory. Then you add your buy. So we have here a small fleet, destroyer, cruiser, a submarine, and 2 fighters. If Japan drops a fleet there, then you can maybe drop your destroyer here as a blocker. On a turn 2, no matter what happens, if Japan attacks, it doesn't really matter what they do, if they attack or not. If they don't attack, yes, bonus for you, then you can pick up this dude and drop him here. Okay. No matter what Japan does, you have $18 in your pocket, so if not a real threat is posed towards ANZAC, I would buy 3 submarines, which allows you to end the turn with already a small fleet of 4 submarines, a cruiser, a destroyer, and you have 3 fighters. This means if Japan wants to take Java, he needs to be prepared for an eventual counterattack of 4 submarines, a destroyer, a cruiser, so 6 naval units and 3 fighter units. So which is not a lot, but it's not few as well. So the role here is then with your submarines, you can start convoying this area here. So the ANZAC player needs primarily to focus on buying subs. If they have 10 IPCs, okay, buy a sub and a ground unit. Okay. If they have more, if you still have their bonuses maybe, okay, buy 2 submarines. Okay, so you play on submarines like the same way the Germans did in real World War II strategy, using submarines to start convoying the Allied players. So you do the same thing with ANZAC, only submarines and ground units. Okay, let the American players slowly build up in the Pacific, and you will start harassing him with submarines. So it's an all submarine warfare. That is what I would want to try in the next game. What are all other alternative strategies? So I already mentioned the Brazil move. Another strategy already mentioned by Sideblood, I think, is putting your ANZAC infantry on the transport. So UK transport will then need to be in a good position, so he can maybe pick up this unit. Needs to be here. You embark on ANZAC turn 1. On UK turn 2, they move to Persia, and at ANZAC turn 2, you deploy on Persia, so occupying Persia to build a factory there. Okay. I strongly disadvise doing the Persia move and the Brazil move. I think you do not have the money to occupy 2 factories there, and be prepared to defend your capital as well. But who knows, it might be a fun game if you try. If ANZAC is not being annoyed by Japan, who knows? Okay, so these are just my 2 cents for an ANZAC idea. Of course, it's not waterproof. If Japan changes perspective and goes towards ANZAC, it all depends on what the Japanese player does. So it's of course a volatile strategy, but maybe focusing on subs with the ANZAC player and only subs, and with my suggested buy, you can have 4 submarines at the end of turn 2, so having a decent fleet to start counterattacking or to start harassing the Japan player at the start of turn 3. Thank you for watching my video. Comments are always welcome in the comment section. Cornwallis out.